The NYPD recently published disciplinary records for all of its active officers. The department calls it unprecedented transparency. But an I-team investigation found scores of cops accused of using excessive force with no disciplinary history at all. And as News 4's Chris Glorioso reports, those cops have cost taxpayers millions in legal bills. And police reformers want to know why their records appear to be clean.
A decade ago, an undercover narcotics detective tried to make a marijuana bust in this lobby. There was a struggle that spilled out onto this Inwood street, and neighbor John Collado tried to break up the fight, thinking both the suspect and the cop were civilians. The cop said he felt his life was in danger, so he grabbed his service weapon and fatally shot Collado.
You know, you're trying to do the right thing by breaking up a fight that you think is a fight, and then you're gone.
No superado, ni lo van a superar.
John Collado's widow sued the NYPD over the death of her husband, and in 2019, a jury found Detective James Connolly used excessive force, awarding Collado's family $4 million in compensatory and $10 million in punitive damages. But if you look for Detective Connolly in the NYPD's brand new disciplinary search, you'll find he was never disciplined for that shooting, despite the jury's finding and costing the city millions in legal bills.
To come away with a jury verdict that he used excessive force, and for that not to result in anything, is incredibly frustrating and feels disconnected from the reality of what happened in the courthouse.
The I-team found Detective Connolly isn't the only cop accused of using excessive force with no apparent disciplinary history. We searched a total of 97 officers named in lawsuits that cost taxpayers at least $100,000 in legal settlements. All but 3 of those cops are listed as having no applicable disciplinary entries.
Clearly, there's a loss of public confidence in the police to police themselves.
Julie Ciccolini is Director of Law Enforcement Accountability for the National Association of Criminal Defense Lawyers. A few years ago, she helped create CapStat, a website that tracks lawsuits against NYPD officers. She's found the city has paid tens of millions of dollars in legal settlements for cops accused of beating suspects, choking suspects, planting evidence, and lying on official reports. But some of the officers sued the most have no published discipline in that new database.
They had nothing listed in the system. They had no discipline listed in this database, and it is pretty crazy when you look at their profiles and what's been alleged to see absolutely nothing there. And so I really think the NYPD has done this intentionally.
The NYPD declined our request for an interview, but sent an email saying the filing of a lawsuit should not be conflated with a finding of misconduct. In some cases, these settlements were simply business decisions on the part of the city law department. That is why most settlements stipulate there is no admission or finding of any wrongdoing. Of course, in the case of John Collado, a jury did find wrongdoing, but an appeals court later vacated the $10 million in punitive damages, and Collado's family agreed to settle with the city for $5.5 million. Detective Connolly, meanwhile, has been promoted. Now Sergeant Connolly, he heads the department's Financial Crimes Task Force. John Collado's widow told us she believes that is unacceptable.
We asked to interview Sergeant Connolly for this story, but did not get a response. The NYPD stressed the appeals court found Connolly did not act with evil motive or recklessness when he killed John Collado. As for that discipline database, the NYPD argues it provides more transparency than any other agency in city government. But civil liberties and police reform advocates disagree. They have called this database, quote, fake transparency.